this. Look at that animal. Have you ever asked yourself, where did whales come from? According to the theory of evolution, whales evolved from this creature, Pakicetus.
Meet Pakicetus, the very first whale.
If you're like me, you would want to see overwhelming evidence to verify this claim. Well, what does science have? In 1983, scientists found fossil evidence of a Pakicetus. What did they find? A partial skull of the earliest Middle Eocene Pakicetus, which is why they show in this diagram a Pakicetus skull with no body. Upon making this discovery and finding the evidence that they needed to prove that this was the first whale, Science magazine published the findings with this picture of a Pakicetus with basically the body of a whale. Yeah, hey look, we found it. This Pakicetus was definitely a whale. Unfortunately for them, they later found the body of the Pakicetus, and it was totally a land animal. Yeah, the drawing, totally wrong. Strike one. The next transitional fossil that they found was this walking whale called an Ambulocetus. The skull showed a partially evolved blowhole. Look, there it is, blowhole. The Smithsonian Museum even displayed Ambulocetus with the partially evolved blowhole. Hans Thijssen, who was a Dutch-American paleontologist known for significant contributions to the field of whale evolution, was asked about the blowhole and Ambulocetus.
I was surprised that the skull wasn't more complete. I thought you had this full, because I've always seen the models in the museums of the full skull. How did you figure out what the shape of the skull? Was it based on these bones, or did you have other fossils to go from?
So the shape of the skull is based on the fossils that we have, and so we have the parts that have the eye and the brain case and the back of the snout. We don't have the tip of the snout, which is unfortunate because we don't know where the nasal opening was, therefore.
Minor detail. So they have a skeleton that they want you to believe is a transitional fossil from Pakicetus to whale, and one of the pieces of evidence would be that it has an early form of a blowhole. The only problem? That part of the skull is missing. Another slam dunk piece of evidence for this wild theory. What else do we have?
Their hind limbs, however, became tiny and almost useless. In fact, sometimes we might even see vestiges of these tiny hind limbs in living whales, but they don't do much. Either way, these hind limbs are proof of their land-dwelling past.
Wrong again. In 2014, these scientists, Matt Dean and Jim Dines, looked at the vestigial whale legs again and discovered that they weren't vestigial after all. Check this out. Whale pelvic bones are not vestigial, but instead evolved to help the marine mammals maneuver better during, you know what? Whales have especially small pelvic bones compared to their body size. And for a long time, scientists figured that the bones are so small because they are vestigial. But now scientists have discovered that the tiny bones may actually play a huge role in whale reproduction, which I think is important to survivability. Researchers found that males from more promiscuous species had larger and therefore larger pelvic bones. Contrary to popular belief, these are not vestigial structures. They do have a function. That function is reproduction.
Either way, these hind limbs are proof of their land-dwelling past.
So to recap, they found the Pakicetus skull, drew up a picture of it being a marine animal, and then when they found the actual skeleton, were surprised to find out it was entirely a land animal. And then with Ambulocetus, they said, this is definitely the transitional fossil. And look, it's got a partially evolved blowhole. This proves that it's a transitional fossil. Except for, they don't have the part of the fossil that would have had the blowhole. Yeah, so they just made it up. Then they found the smoking gun. What was it? Tiny vestigial hind legs. And then they discovered that what they thought were vestigial legs was actually the anchoring point for the massive whale penis. Not at all vestigial. They want you to believe that land animals evolved by crawling out of the ocean. Then the 100-pound hooved Pakicetus that's related to deer evolved by going back into the ocean, where it lost its fur, gained blubber, gained a baleen, evolved a blowhole, grew to 300,000 pounds, and became this creature. And you have what? This evidence to support this belief? And people say that the Bible is a fairy tale.